All right, welcome everybody. I'm so excited about tonight. I don't know about you guys, but I have tons of scrap pieces of paper, and I mean tons. As you could see, I had a very small few at the beginning of this video to show you the different types of sizes that we get. So let me show that to you again. So we get these little tiny pieces. We get, you know, stuff like this. We get the long strips, which we usually get a lot of. It's just a ton of scraps that we end up with when we make cards. And the biggest question is, what do we do with them? So tonight I've got 4 cards to show you, so I'm going to get started pretty quick. So if you're new to my channel, my name is Julie Brown. I am a Stampin' Up! Independent demonstrator. And tonight I want to show you what to do when you have a lot of scraps and you want to make cards. Wait till you see these cards. You're going to be so excited. I love these cards, and I kind of was going through YouTube and looking at and Pinterest and looking at all the different cards made. And I came up with these 4 to design for you guys. Hey Shanine, I'm so glad you're with me tonight. So again, if you're new, just make sure you type in the comments and let me know you're here. And if you have any questions while I'm moving along, make sure that you put those in. So let's get the housekeeping out of the way so we can get started. So for those of you that still need to place an order for August, that is the hostess code that I would love for you to use, QNZ933VR, and you can place your orders at juliebrown.stampinup.net. Now I want you to notice the line on the bottom, which is my blog. Hey Brenda, my blog is stampinjuliebrown.blogspot.com. I am not going to be going over measurements tonight because I'm doing 4 cards and I just want to kind of throw these together for you and show you how much fun it can be working with your scraps. So I will be posting these this week on my blog, so make sure you check in on my blog to get all of the measurements for all of the cards that I'm doing tonight. Alrighty, so let's get started. Let me get all these scraps out of the way. Wahaha. Hey Mel, hey Brenda, hey Shanine. Okay, so the first one that we're going to work with, and I've done some of the prep work, is the In the Wild paper, because I did a lot of cards with the In the Wild suite, and so I wanted to show you some fun things. Now, the one thing that I'm doing tonight is everything that you see me do, you can do with just paper, but I am adding embossing folders to each of these cards to make them a lot more fun. So basically what I did for this one is I had all these little strips and I just used our banners Pick-a-Punch and I cut banners off at the end of them. So all of them have little banners on the end. And then I cut this tiger out of the designer series paper as well, because I actually had scrap pieces of the paper that had these on it. The other thing that we're going to be using tonight for this one is the animal print embossing folder. So let's get started. Oh, and one more thing I'm using. Let me see where I put it. I don't know how many of you have worked with this, but this is the new Mini Happenings. And this is the one that goes with the mini the message dies. And so you can stamp this, and it's one big stamp. You stamp it and then you cut out the dies and you get like a whole little bucket full of sentiments. So you're going to see me use a couple of those tonight. So I just wanted to let you know that we are using that tonight as well. Okay, so let's get started. So basically what I do is I'm going to be bringing in my silicone mats, because anytime that I'm gluing stuff and you'll see how I go off the page, I like to have my silicone mat down because then I don't have to worry about things like really sticking to the page. So I'm just going to come in and hopefully this won't be real boring for you guys, because I am just basically going to be gluing pieces down tonight. And I think this one was actually cut at like 3/4. These are all different sizes. There's a 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 3/4 inch. So they're all a little bit different. So I'm just going to lay this one down like so. And I am laying it off the top of the page. And the reason I'm doing that is because then it allows me to adjust down here for my banner ends. And it allows me to do that, and then I'm just going to trim off the top. So then I'm going to come in with this other design. And I probably don't really have to put glue at the top of this, being that the top is hanging off. And then this one is going to be like so. Now understand, you guys can, you know, I'm just trying to show you ideas, and I hope that each one of you is going to take these ideas and go use up some of your scraps that you have sitting in bins at home. But you can do this, you know, differently. These first couple that I'm going to be showing you are using strips, and then the last two we're going to be using circles, and we're going to be using squares to make some really fun designs on cards. So this one I'm just going to go up, and I'm just leaving a little bit of white space, and you can see I'm not measuring, I'm just laying it down. So now I want to have this big one here. Again, I'm not being like fully particular on the way that I'm doing this. I'm just kind of going, and hopefully it'll all come out on the end over here. That's always the question, right? And the reason I'm using liquid glue is because you'll see that especially when I do the circle ones and the square ones, it allows me a lot more leeway to move things around if I need to. I can't wait for you guys to see all the cards. I'm so excited. So how many on here have tons of scraps that they need ideas to do things with? I'm guessing everybody should. It just seems like we just collect these things, doesn't it? It's just always like, let me see if this is gonna work. Yep, okay. It just seems like our scraps just grow and grow and grow. They don't ever quit growing. And I know Mel is, I know Mel is really good at using her scraps. When we used to go to retreat together, she always brought her scraps and made some really fun things with her scraps. And so she has kind of inspired me, because I was looking at my scrap bin going, what? I need to do something with all of these. Okay, then we're going to take this last piece, and I'm adhering the glue. And I'm more concerned about getting the glue kind of on those bottom banner edges. Oh, it worked out perfect. Look at that. So I have a little bit of white. So, I mean, there might be, you know, bigger white over here. And if you're real particular, then obviously you can go slower and get it more exact so that you've got exactly the same spacing between. But you guys all know me. I'm not all that particular. Okay, so then, like I said, the reason I use this silicone mat is because the glue's right there, and then it's not going to be stuck to my paper. Then you're just going to turn this over, and if there wasn't glue all over this, you could still use these scraps, but at some point we got to let our scraps go, right? When they get to be so small, like, I mean, I could come up with a really good design with this, but I'm not going to. These are going in the trash. Okay, so now we have this that looks like this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to emboss this. Now this animal print embossing folder is not a 3D one. And so I'll show you how to run that through the machine. And if I start sneezing, please excuse me. I have been outside a lot this week. My husband is down in Albuquerque taking care of a family member, and I have been out doing the little bit of a garden that we have, which is bad for me because I have allergies really bad. Oh, Brenda, you used Christmas scraps and a window sheet and made a card. Send it to me. I want to see it. That's cool. So anyway, so I have been outside and something has desperately gotten me sneezing. So if you'll look right here, it talks about using with a standard embossing folder. And so you're going to use plate 1, which is this one. Then you're going to use 2 plates 3s, which are these clear ones, which mine aren't quite so clear anymore. So you're going to put a 1 and then a 3, and then your embossing folder, and then another 3. So this is for the standard embossing folders, the ones that are not 3D. All right, so then we're going to run this through. Oh, guys, hold on. My iPad is saying it's got a low battery, and I thought I had it plugged in. It's saying it's charging, so I'm not sure what's going on. So hold on, I gotta mess with some stuff. You know, sometimes I just want to scream when I sit down to do these. It drives me absolutely bonkers. Let's hope I don't unplug something that's important here. Okay, well, it says that it's charging, but if it goes out, I apologize. I'm not sure why it's saying that it's in the red, but it's going down instead of up. So hopefully I fixed it. If I go out, I apologize. I will redo this later. So anyway, once you run it through the embossing folder, look how cool that looks. And then it also puts the print on this paper up here, which makes it really cool. So let me try one little thing here. Let me see if this will work better. Well, they all say they're charging, but I don't know what it's gonna do. So let's hope it doesn't shut me down. All right, so then once you run it through the embossing folder, you have this. Oops, I've got cords everywhere now. All right. And then all I'm gonna do is I'm going to bring in a piece of evening evergreen. And we're going to, and again, I use liquid glue on the back of this only because I'm using the embossing folder, so it has like some hills and valleys. And I want to make sure I get a good grip on the front. So everybody cross your fingers, and let's hope that my iPad doesn't lose all its battery. All right, so here we go, and that's going to go on like so. If I can get it on straight. All right, then we're going to lay that down. Then we're going to come in with some dimensionals, some of the mini dimensionals. I know, isn't that texture fun, Shanine? That's what, you know, I just don't think we use our embossing folders enough. And when you're using your scrap paper, this is the perfect time to really use your embossing folders and give your card a little bit extra pizzazz, I guess you could call it. All right, so let's pull these off. Yeah, it has the little lightning bolt next to the charging, so it should be charging, and so we should be okay, but we'll see. Then I'm just gonna lay that little tiger like so. And then I cut a little piece of the evening evergreen here. And then this is one of those sentiments that was from that big stamp that I showed you at the beginning. It's this one here, and so it cut out all of these. So there's the You're the Best right there. And that's called Mini Happenings. I really like that stamp set and die that goes along with it because, you know, if you're in a rush and you need some sentiments really quick, if you just cut these ahead of time and you just have them sitting in a little, you know, bin, you can just grab out whichever one you want and make a card. And obviously this was a scrap of cardstock, And then I'm just gonna take that, and I didn't do the inside of any of these cards, just because I'm focusing on the front and with the scraps. All right, so now this is just gonna go here. And obviously you could add embellishments. You could come in and, like, if you had cut some of the little the ferns and stuff that came with this die, you could have those. But that's pretty much that card with scraps. What do you think? Pretty cute, huh? Okay, next card. Let me move all this out of the way. All right, so our next card, let me show you everything I'm using for this card. So this card, I'm going to be using the One Happy Family for the sentiment. I'm going to be using the Scalloped contour dies. I'm going to be using the Hammered Metal 3D embossing folder. And I'm going to be using the Iconic dies, which this is one of those dies that was, it's like it's on its own. It's kind of like the diorama dies. They don't go with a specific stamp set, but it just cuts out some fun stuff for you to put on cards. Okay, so that's everything that we're using on this card. Let me get all that out of the way because I've cut most of this stuff out ahead of time just so that we could go quick. Okay, so for this one, I'm using the hand-pinned pieces. And as you will see, they're just, I mean, these are all sorts of different sizes, right? So I have like 1/2 inch, I have 1/4 inch, I have 3/4 inch, 1/2 inch. So these are all just things that you're gonna have left over when you're making cards. So again, we're gonna bring this in, and we're gonna bring in that silicone mat, and there's glue up here, so I'm going to be careful not to put my white piece up where the glue is. And then what I'm going to do with this one is, this one I'm going to start on this corner, but it's going to be right up against. So it's going to be like right up against. So again, I'm going to bring in my glue. Sorry if I'm sniffling and stuff, guys. These allergies really kicked my tail today. I have no idea what I got into out in my yard, but I don't want to get into it again. And so I'm going to keep my bottom edge, and you really don't have to. You can go, you can make both edges like off the page and then just trim. Okay, so there's that one. And then I'm going to come in with one of these. So I hope I'm inspiring you guys to think about some things you can do with all of your scraps. Like I said, I know Mel uses her scraps quite a bit. And so this one I'm leaving a little bit more white space than I did with the last card. All right, so there's that one. And then I'm going to come in with one of these pieces here. Again, all the same designer series paper. Now, here's the deal. If you don't have enough of the same designer series paper, then just use light colors. You know, because it doesn't matter because look, none of these designs match. You know, these designs are all different on this card. So it doesn't really matter if the designs match, but if the colors are the same, then it's going to work just fine. Okay, so then I think I want a 1/2 inch piece here. So I know it gets a little tedious watching me put all this together, but hopefully you're enjoying it. You know, and then sometimes, like, I didn't have very many of this color or this design. But as you can see, I had a bunch of these designs, but I still wanted to use this one. And so again, I'm going to bring this one in. And I am trying not to go like all the way down so that if I wanted to make another one of these cards, especially with this piece, it's obviously going to be big enough for me to cut off these ends and use these ends again. But again, like I said, don't get into the habit of keeping all these little tiny small pieces unless you just find a design that you're really in love with to use all of your scraps with. All right, so, and it doesn't even, you know, this paper can be directional, but in this case, it doesn't even matter if you're using it directional. It's still gonna look really cool when you get it all done. Okay, then I think I'll do a purple. My granddaughter says, Grandma, I learned that in school. I said, you learned what in school? And now, shoot, now I can't think of what she called it. But she called it patterns, following patterns. She said, she learned this in school. And I said, well, good. All right, and then I think I want this to be yellow. So she said I was doing patterns because I was following the same pattern, kind of going across, which you can do, but you don't have to do. Okay, again, the liquid glue comes in handy because then if you don't feel like you've got it quite there. Now you can see this looks kind of uneven. It's not gonna matter because once I get this piece on, oops, yeah, I'm doing the wrong side. All right, I wanna do the purple side or glue the purple side and have the flower side up. All right. So this one, all I'm doing is measuring to make it look like it's straight. All right. And then that one is, we've got all of our papers on there. And again, because I'm using my silicone mat, it comes up really nice. Then I'm gonna turn it over. Now I will caution you guys, using your scissors are gonna get gunked up because this is all paper or glue on the paper. And so I always clean my scissors when I'm done with projects like this where I've got a lot of glue that I'm cutting. I always clean my scissors with alcohol. And then that just takes all of the glue residue right off of your scissors. All right. And then I've got to trim this one. So does anybody have any questions? This stuff is sticking to me everywhere. Questions, comments? Again, I really wanted to do this because, you know, I looked at my scrap bin and I figured if my scrap bin was full, then everybody else's is probably getting pretty full. And I know that we all have this bad habit where we just can't throw this pretty paper away, can we? It's so hard to throw it away. Oops. All right, I'm gonna grab a baby wipe because my hand is getting sticky. And then what you can do, so while I'm finishing up this card, I can go ahead and clean this glue off this with my baby wipe and set it to the side, and then it should be dry and ready to go. I have several of these, so I can trade them out. But if you only have one, you just wipe it down and put it to the side. Okay, so now for this one, and then you may have instances like right here, see how that didn't really glue down? So I'm just gonna take a little bit of my glue and stick it down like so. All right, so now I'm gonna come in with the hammered, this is called the hammered metal 3D embossing folder. So I'm gonna stick this in here. And this is a 3D one, so now when we run this through, we're gonna just have our base plate, which is our #1 plate. Then your embossing folder and your paper, and then the gray #4 plate is the next one that's gonna be coming in. All right, so we're just gonna run that through. This one looks so cool. And this is just a really fun thing to play with your embossing folders and, you know, use these scraps and see what they look like when you do this. Okay, so look at this one. Isn't that cool texture? And do you see how it makes such a difference in your cards? Like with the scrap paper, it just gives it this extra little oomph. And I just really love using the embossing folders for that. Okay, so this one I'm putting on a piece of basic black. And I'm going to bring in this really pretty Highland Heather, and what do they call this? This is the Highland Heather cross grain ribbon, and it's kind of, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's kind of sparkly. I know, Mel, isn't that a cool texture? And so for this, I'm gonna bring in my Stampin' Seal Plus because I want it to hold this ribbon really good. And I'm just gonna, you know, measure my ribbon so it's a little bit bigger. And I'm gonna bring back in my silicone mat only because if I happen to set this down while I'm getting this ribbon on, there's glue on the back of it or adhesive, and I don't want the adhesive to stick to the paper that's sitting down there. I use my silicone mats actually quite a bit. So I'm basically just gonna fold that like so. And then I'm gonna come in with my Tombow glue, and you can really see what it looks like on the back, the texture. But isn't it cool how you just do that over designer series paper and how pretty that is, and what a cool look that you get. And then we're just gonna lay this down. Like so. Give it just a second to grab a hold. Yeah, I like the liquid glue because it tends to really take a hold of that paper once you've embossed it. And then for this one, like I said, I use those contour, so I pre-cut these out, and so I use this one and this one. And so, oh yeah, this would be a really pretty Easter card, but that's not what I used it for. So see, I cut these two pieces out. And, oh, I guess I need to stamp the sentiment. Silly me. Okay, so I'm gonna use the one that says, maybe, celebrating you. So I am doing a little bit of stamping tonight. And you guys know I love sentiment stamp sets, and this is exactly why, because when I start to do all of this where I'm messing with my my scraps, oh hey Patty, how are you? So when I'm messing with my scraps, you know, I have all these different sentiments that I can use, and it just makes it fun and easy. So you guys know I love sentiment stamps. Okay, so I'm just going to take that, stamp it like so, and I used Highland Heather ink for this. And you know, for this particular one, because I already knew the colors in the because in your catalog it'll tell you what colors match up with your designer series paper. And so I just brought in some dimensionals for this one. And you guys know I like to leave a little alley in the middle anytime I'm straddling ribbon. So we're gonna just put 4 of these down here. Whoops, I gotta pick it up first. And of course, using my Take-A-Pick tool, which is like my favorite tool of all times. All right. Whoops. So I'm just pulling off the tops of those. And like I said, all of the other little extra pieces I cut out ahead of time, but this is a die cut, and it's the what's it called? Scalloped contours. And I'm just going to take this and put it like so, and then I'm just going to glue this straight down to it. So the next 2 cards, I'm going to go a little slower because it's they're a little more challenging to get them on straight, but you're gonna love how they turn out. Okay, and then this is that flower from that iconic die. I'll bring that back in and show you. This is a die set that it's all on its own. It doesn't match up with any card set. It's called the Iconic Dies. And I use this one on another card. And I'm using this leaf and this flower on this card. So again, it just shows you how you can take your embossing folders. I didn't quite get that centered, but oh well. That means I'm going to put my flower on this side since I went more to this side. And so I'm going to come in with a mini dimensional, and I'm going to just set that right there. And then I'm going to put a little bit of, again, liquid glue right across here, because I only need the dimensional on the part of the flower that is, because this is, remember, this is already popped up. I just want to make sure I'm getting that right. Okay, and then here's the fun leaves that I did. And again, I'm not going over, I am not going over measurements tonight. You'll have to check out my blog to get the measurements if you want the measurements for any of these. I'll be putting those, all of these cards, each one will have its own blog post. So you'll be able to go in and see the one that you liked. And if you want to just use the same pattern with the paper that you have at home, then you'll know, oops, that was not good. You'll have all the card cuts, so you'll be able to see how that all went together. So we're just putting those two leaves like so. And then I'm just going to take this leaf and I'm going to put a little of the glue on the bottom, and then on the top I'm just going to cut me just one little teeny tiny strip. That was bad. And it's going to go right on the end. And then let me just take off that top paper. And then this one is going to kind of slide in like so. And then stick like that. And then I'm going to come in. These were actually the oh, I can't even say this. Okay, these gems. And these are the ones that actually came in the suite with this paper. And so I'm going to use these green ones here. I'm going to use my putty end of my little tool here. So we're just going to grab one of those, and it's going to go like so. And then I think I'll do a small one. And let's do it on the purple so it kind of sticks out. And then I'll do another, maybe a big one. Another big one, and I'm doing kind of a triangle is what I'm looking for here. So it's kind of this way. And so I'm just going to stick that one right there. So you can see how you can just use your scrap paper, take some embellishments, use some embossing folders, use some die cut machines or die cuts, and there you go. There's that one. What do you guys think? I hope you like it. All right, so that's the second one. Okay, we are on to number 3. Is everyone keeping up with me? I hope so. Oh, you know what? Let me put this back in that stamp set so I don't lose it. I've done that before, and then I have a stamp sitting here, and I have no clue which stamp set it goes in. Okay, so for the next card, we're going to use some of everyone's favorite paper, but along with this one, we are going to be using the In Your Words, and this one is in the new Celebration catalog, and it's a, so if you host during the celebration that's going on right now, this is one of the stamp sets that you can get. And again, it's a sentiment stamp set, so I love it. So we're going to be using that. We are going to be using the Hippo and Friends dies. And we're going to be using these. I use these two right here, and I've already cut those out, so you don't have to watch me cut those out. And then this time, we're going to be using this Painted Texture 3D embossing folder. Hey, Vanessa! Long time no hear from you, girl. So glad you're here. So this one, I wanted to do some shapes on this one. But I did have some of this gold foil that I had just a ton of different little pieces of. And so to start this one out, I'm just going to attach one of these to the top and one of these to the bottom. So Vanessa, I know you just got here. We are working on making cards with scraps. So I'm so glad you're here. Alrighty. So I'm going to go ahead and put this down first. And the second one I'm going to wait until I build with my circles. So I'm going to set it to the side. Okay, so what I did for this one, oh, I had them in a pile in order, but now they're all messed up, is I used, and Stampin' Up no longer sells the 1-inch circle punches, but I used a 1-inch circle punch. And I used the Expressions in Ink, that really pretty paper with the foil. And I just cut them in 1-inch circles. And the reason I wanted 1-inch circles is because that means I can get 4 across, because this piece of paper is 4 by 5 1/4. And so bear with me as I throw this one together. So I just punched these out of, I had like some 1-inch strips. And so I just punched these out of my 1-inch strips. And then this one's pretty easy to put together because you're just basically touching edges. And you'll see that I have a little bit of all of the Designer Series paper in here, because this is the one that has the pale papaya in it. All right. And then I am just going to, you guys get to watch me play with circles. And if you get it on here right, it should fit exactly across that way, right? So, oh, Vanessa, you love working with scraps. Yeah. Me too, when I have the time to do it. Sometimes I look at my scrap bin and it's like, it starts overflowing, and that's when I'm like, okay, time to make some cards with scraps. And the nice thing about this is, so I did a lot of this prepping ahead of time, but think about this. So if you like this circle card, you could just one night while you're watching TV, you could just go grab your scrap bin and you could just get a little circle punch. Or if you don't have a circle punch, you can use the circle dies, except they're a little bigger than 1 inch. So you might have to like cut circles off on the sides. And you could just sit while you're watching TV and prepare some of this and have it all ready. And then when you're ready to sit down and make your cards, all of your paper's ready to go. So you can do prep work ahead of time, but you don't have to. That's what makes this nice. You can just, again, you know, if I was watching TV tonight, I would just be sitting and cutting these circles out, and then I would walk over here to my desk because my TV's right across, right in front of me. And then I would start making my card. Or I would sit here at my desk and punch things out while I'm watching TV. So, these are just good ideas. And then, you know, again, what's nice about the first two that I showed you is they're just kind of strips of paper. And you don't have to really do anything with them because you can just overlap them like I did and then just cut the edges off. So if you came late, you might want to go back later and look at that. Watch TV, laugh out loud. Well, the thing is I have my TV on, but I rarely watch it. Wes always gets mad at me because he comes down and he says, so what's going on? it'll be like one of his favorite shows. And I'm like, I have no idea. And he's like, well, what are you, I thought you were watching the TV. And yeah, no, I wasn't actually watching the TV. I was working, but anyway, but I have it on for, I have found that after living with all of my kids who are all so loud, I have such a hard time acclimating to them not being here anymore. And you can see I'm just kind of changing up, you know, the greens and the pinks but it's, like I said, it's not, this really isn't that hard to do. The next one that I'm going to do looks hard, but it's not hard either. But the finish on these are so pretty. It is way worth the effort that we put into these cards. All right. So is anyone getting inspired to go work with their scraps? I hope so. This one especially, because this paper, you know how this paper had like some of the design was kind of right down the middle of the paper. And so when I cut it, it didn't always like match up perfectly. And so I had these little sections that had some of this pink still in it. And I didn't want to throw it away because this paper is so stinking pretty. But you can see even this is going together. I mean, it's taking me a little bit of time, but it is going together pretty quick. So, like I gave a challenge to you guys last time to send me some pictures of any cards that you'd been making, and I didn't get one picture, guys. So does that mean no one made cards or nobody wanted to send me the picture? Because I want to see what you guys are up to. All right, so then that's my last little circle. And again, by using the liquid glue, it allows you to kind of move right, left. Then I'm going to take this last little strip here, and we're going to put glue on this. Especially like for some reason, the gold foil, I always hold on to my gold foil, and I don't know why. So Patty, you get overwhelmed with your scraps and you get overwhelmed and then you give them away. Well, hopefully I'm giving you some ideas tonight of things that you can do with them, and so you won't throw them away. You'll actually make some cards with them. All right, so now I've got that all put together, and we're gonna run this one through an embossing folder, because I want to show this one to you because it's so pretty without the embossing folder, but when you add the embossing folder, it's just like a real wow. Okay, so that's what it looks like, and it's still so pretty because it has all that metallic in there, right? And so now I want to bring in my die cut machine. And this one is also a 3D embossing folder. It's the Painted Texture 3D embossing folder. And so I'm just going to put this in here like so. And then we're going to close it down. And run her through. Like I said, I just, you know, I do a lot of with my scraps, but I don't always think to get my embossing folders. Obviously I use my dies because I'm always using labels and stuff, but the embossing folders, I don't always think to use those with this, just to give it an extra special look, because it really does, you know, make this a little more highlighted. So now look at this one. And look what it did to the gold. Isn't that cool? So I'm loving this one. And for this one, I brought in this braided ribbon, and it's just jade, which is one of the colors in here, but it also has the gold through it. So I thought that that would match up really well. And that's the other thing. So, I mean, I don't have a lot of scrap ribbon because I usually just cut it to fit, but a lot of people have scrap ribbon as well. And this would be perfect when you're doing these cards to use your scrap ribbon on. All right, so we're just gonna stick this on here. The last one is the one that's a little more difficult to do, but wait till you see how it turns out. It's so pretty. Okay, so for this one, I am going to put it on to Evening Evergreen, which again is one of the colors that it shows in your Stampin' Up! Catalog that matches this. And so I'm going to come in again with my Tombow glue because there's hills and valleys. Let's hope my glue holds out. And we're just going to lay this down like so. Whoops. All right, so there's that. And then I'm gonna come in and I cut, remember I used those hippo, remember those Hippo and Friends? And so I used this one, and I cut out a melon mambo, I think this was. And again, we're going to use some dimensionals here. And like I said, because I'm gonna be setting this, so I'm okay to put dimensionals here and here, just not across that middle where that ribbon is going to be. So we're going to stick this on. So I hope you guys aren't getting too bored. Oh, so Mel, you have lots of scrap ribbon. But yeah, I mean, see, think about this. I mean, I'm sure you can find ribbon that matches, you know, the nice thing about Stampin' Up! Is if you've bought ribbon from Stampin' Up! A long time ago, chances are it's going to be something that can match up to paper that they have now. Or if you're like me, you have a lot of the old Stampin' Up! Paper, that was scrap paper, that you need to like make these cards with. So that's going to pop up like so. And then I'm going to come in with this, and I'm going to come in with that stamp. And this one I'm going to put, hope this card makes you smile. And I'm going to stamp that in Evening Evergreen, just so it kind of matches everything else. So I'm doing a little stamping tonight, guys. Most of it was really working with designer series paper. But and like I said, I haven't designed the insides of these cards yet. But it won't take me long just to, throw something together, and of course, probably on the inside, put a strip of one of these pieces of paper across the bottom to help the inside. Okay, so that says, hope this card makes you smile. Fun. Let me clean this off, this stamp off, and then I'm going to put it away because I am using so many different sets tonight. It's like nothing I'm using tonight is a bundle. Sorry, you guys, but these are just all like pulling your resources. I hope that this will inspire you to go look at all the embossing folders that you have. Look at all of your scrap paper that you have. Look at all your ribbon or scrap ribbon that you have, and start designing some really fun cards. And then throwing in some embellishments, because we all have embellishments too. Okay, so for this one, these are those new loose flower flourishes. And so I'm going to pull these, and I'm going to use the pale papaya. And on the big one, I can use a glue dot, but the little ones I'm gonna have to use my liquid glue. So I'm just gonna take these and I'm just gonna stick one right there. And then I'm gonna bring in and put just a little dab of glue here and here. So, oh, well, that's a good habit to get into, Mel, is to go to your scraps first. So I'm going to use my putty end to pick up these other little pieces because they're pretty little. And this does take a little bit of time for that glue to take a hold of those embellishments. All right, so then there's this card finished. See how cute those flowers are? Aren't those, and they're kind of shiny. So what do you guys think of this one? Do you love it? Yay! Okay, I'm gonna keep this one laying flat so that I can let those embellishments dry. Okay, dun dun dun, we are on our fourth card. So who's excited now? I hope you guys are learning something and that I'm giving you some ideas. Okay, so this one takes a little bit more finagling, but it's still way worth it. So I'm using the, for this one, I'm using the Simply Elegant paper. And if you guys don't remember which paper that is, that's this paper that has like the shiny metallic. And I had a bunch of 1-inch strips of this. And so I just cut various patterned paper. I really like this copper. And then, and it all has like the shiny metallic side to it. So I just cut, and you'll notice that like these two patterns, I'm not going to use as much as this pattern. And you'll understand that in just a quick second. Okay, so what did I use for this one? Okay, so for this one, I used the Iconic dies. I used this one here, and I cut out some copper flowers. And then I used this Mini Happenings with the message dies for this one. And that's pretty much all I used on this one besides the paper. Okay, so we're going to be bringing in a piece of Whisper White. Bad. Basic white. Okay, and this one I might have to bring in an extra like silicone mat because as you build it, it really starts moving out. And so the first thing that I did is I measured down here on my graph paper, and I've got, and let me put it at the top because I don't think you guys can see the bottom. So here's 0, and this is 4 inches. So the most important thing was my starting piece. And so I'm going to use one of these as my starting piece, and I'm going to put this at a diagonal. And so I want the point of my diagonal to basically be right in that center. So again, I'm just going to get this glue on here. And please bear with me. This one takes a little bit of time to put together. Not a lot of time, but I have to be a little more precise on this one. Okay, so I'm going to lay that down like so. Now I can bring in my silicone mat. All right, and then what I'm going to do, I'm getting glue everywhere. Go figure. All right, and now, so then what I want to do is, this is going to be my centerpiece. And then I want to bring one of these in, and I want to match it up like touching this point right here. And it is going to go off over here, and that's okay. That's the pattern. And the biggest thing here, again, is making sure that you get those corners so that the corners lay down. And again, this would be pretty in any paper. It doesn't have to be this shiny, glimmery paper, but you know, that makes it look pretty cool. Okay, so then that's going to lay like so, and then I'm going to take the same pattern and I'm going to lay it down on the left side of this one. So can anyone like think of some paper that you have and tell me the name of it that you might be trying one of these designs with? Let's see what everyone's thinking. Okay, so that's going to go like so. And I'm going to fill in these pieces at the end. Now I'm going to come in with, this is my biggest stack right here. So now I'm coming in with this one. And again, I'm just eyeballing this, guys. I'm not being like perfect in any of this. I'm just eyeballing it and laying these pieces down. And this one, it takes a little bit to, when you first kind of start watching it, you're like, am I liking this? Am I not liking this? You're just not sure. But when you get the whole card put together, this one is beautiful. So I'm gonna try to make it so that it touches a little bit, but I still want like this to look right. So I can't quite touch these two, which is okay. All right, so that's going to be like that for now. Then I'm going to come in with one of these. So I'm going to do the opposite. So the first time I did the lighter color and then the darker on the outside. This time I'm going to do the darker color is going to be my inside piece. And then I'm going to put the lighter ones to the side. So I just kind of switched up the pattern a little bit. So no one has any paper that they have at home that they're thinking, oh my gosh, I could do that with that paper. It's like I'm hearing like crickets chirping. Are you guys that focused? All right, so again, I'm gonna try to almost touch those ends together. And then we're gonna almost touch these ends together here. On this side, let's see. All right. And then once I have these two pieces in, I can come back and finish with my gray here. And so I'm just kind of do this corner because that's the only part that's going to be on here. And that's going to fit like so. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. And again, I'm just focusing on the corner, putting glue on the corner. Yes, this would make a great Christmas card using Christmas paper. So yay! I'm glad you guys are thinking. Yeah, because all of us make tons of, we make Christmas cards and usually have so many Christmas cards left. I mean, scraps from our Christmas cards. That's always a big one for me. I have a lot of bins with Christmas scraps in them. Okay, so now I'm coming in with that gray down here again. And then I'm going to put one right here. And you'll notice I just kind of have a little method on how I put this together, because I kind of put the center and build like a couple rows down, and then I start filling in the outside lines. Whoops. Because I like to wait until, like, see how this isn't completed? I like to wait until I have these three pieces before I try to come in with this other piece. Okay, so now I'm going to switch this up again. So I have this one, this pattern, and now I'm going to come back in with this pattern again. It's going to be my center pattern. So there's my center piece. And then we're doing my outsides, my one to the left, one to the right of the darker copper And you'll notice their pieces are hanging off, which that's fine. And as you guys can see, this particular one, I mean, it's going to take a little bit more finessing and, you know, paying attention to how you lay this down, where the other ones kind of went, even the circle one went down pretty quick. And this one does take a little bit more, like I said, finessing. Oops, this looks like it's up a little higher on that side. I'm trying to keep my straight lines here. So now I can come in with, because I finished this, so it's basically I put 5 down and then I do the sides. And again, I'm just putting glue in that corner because that's the part I need to glue down. And now we'll do the other side. And once you kind of get into a rhythm, it actually goes pretty quick. I mean, you guys might not be thinking it's going quick, but I think it's going pretty quick. Okay, so now we're coming back in with that gray pattern. So this is kind of the dominant pattern. So if you preferred like this pattern, then you might want to make that like where I'm putting all the gray pieces, because you want to see more of that one, which that would be really striking as well. But this is, I had more of this than I had of this. That also can determine like how you're going to put this together based on how much you have of each of the designs. All right, so that's going to go like that. And then we're going to come in and we're going to finish off this. And I'm going to pick the side that has the most copper on it down here. So let me kind of scoot this up. And again, I'm just putting glue in that corner. Whoops. So liquid glue does like to move. Okay, and then this one, oh wait, no. I need to do my 5. I got off track a little bit. So I'm going to come in with this piece there. So these end pieces are kind of like the most difficult, trying to get them lined up how you want them lined up, even though you're going to be cutting a lot of this off the bottom. But you're just going to come in with this same pattern. Over here. Oops. So let's get that down. Then I can bring in my gray pieces. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of put a little bit of glue right in that center section, so that I can bring in these pieces a little bit easier. So I have a little glue there. Glue that down, and now I've got to come up and I've got to finish with my gray up here on the top. So again, I'm just going to kind of put like a little arrow right there. And do put a note, you want to get to the edge, to the top edge there with the glue. Yeah, this would be a really fun masculine card. That's a great idea. See, I've got you guys thinking. That's my whole purpose tonight, is make you think. Plus, I wanted to show you all the different sentiment stamps and embossing folders that you can play with as well. Okay, so this one I'm gonna do where I just do it in the corner of the paper. Oh wait, that wasn't right. See, I was thinking right, I need to do it in that corner. So it's basically just going to be right there. Okay. And then I want to make sure I get this tip up here because I want that to hold. And I still have some pieces left, which is okay. Because like I said, you can mix and match your designer series paper. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Then I'm just gonna flip it over. See how those silicone mats just make this so easy? And then you're just gonna take your scissors and you're just gonna cut off everything that's hanging off of the 4x5¼ sheet of paper. And again, it is sticking to my scissors. So who remembers what I said to use on your scissors to get them clean after they get glue on them? I said that during this class tonight. So let's see who remembers. How do we get the clunky glue off of our scissors? Anyone remember? Yay! Brenda, Mel, both of you. I'm going to send you both a prize for answering tonight. Good job, ladies. So yes, alcohol wipes or just alcohol with a cotton ball. And again, I could keep all these little pieces if I wanted. If I was doing more of these cards, I would definitely keep these little pieces because they're the little tiny corners that I might need for this card. But as of right now, I'm not going to be making another one of these tonight. So let me just show you what it looks like before we do the embossing folder. So what do you guys think? Do you like that pattern? Okay, so now I'm going to run this through, but I'm running it through the subtle embossing folder. So it's not really going to be as drastic as the other cards are, if I can find that embossing folder. So I'm using this Tasteful Textile 3D embossing folder. And this one is just, it's a really like subtle embossing folder. But I didn't want an embossing folder that was going to overtake this beautiful paper. And so I just wanted to use this one. And you'll see that it's kind of hard to see, especially on the camera, but in person it looks really cool because it just gives it this great, it just gives it some texture. That's what embossing folders do. It just gives us some great texture. Oh, I think that's the last time I need that. So, okay, so let's see if you guys, I don't know if the camera will show you. Obviously you can see it on the back. But then if you look on the front, it's just really subtle where you can see it. But it, again, it just makes it look special when you do that. So I'm going to bring in some basic black for the card base to finish off our last card. And this one I'm just going to go ahead and use the Stampin' Seal Plus because I'm not adding any ribbons or anything. But I do say that, you know, put a little stripe across the middle. All right, let's see how I want to do this. And so this is going to lay down like so. All right, and then I had a little strip or extra piece of basic gray. So this was in my scrap bin for my my cardstock, and I want to pop this one up. So we're going to pop it up. And you can see that I don't do like all the corners. I just kind of zigzag. Well, come on. Well, that one does not want to come up. But it's going to because I need it. Okay. So now let's get the paper off the top. As you guys can see, I've really gotten into the habit of using my Take-A-Pick tool. Okay, so I'm gonna just put this, and I'm putting it purposely across the gray section, just so that if it's not quite long enough, mine is, but if it shouldn't be, you still have that gray in the background, so it'll cover anything that doesn't exactly. Oh yeah, that would be pretty too, Brenda, with a basic gray on the mat. I didn't want to do the basic gray on the mat just because I had so much gray on my edges, so that's why I chose the black. But that would be pretty too, to use the basic gray as your card base and then a basic black mat. And so for this one, I brought in the new glittery organdy ribbon it's the white that's in the mini catalog. And I'm just going to build like a little ribbon thing. Hard to explain. So I'm just going to kind of go put a glue dot there, and then I'm going to bring in another glue dot. And then I'm going to I'm kind of making my bow, but I'm going to be covering this with a sentiment. Yeah, the gray would look really pretty embossed too. So yes, that would be, see, you guys are thinking. That's wonderful. That was my whole purpose tonight, is to get those creative juices going. So I'm just gonna kind of make that to where it looks like that. And then I'm going to come in with, remember that big stamp set? I stamped it and then I cut a bunch of these out. And I don't know if I pulled out the one that I wanted. There's one in here that says, these are all so cute. You did it. You're awesome. The world needs more people like you. There's the one I'm looking for. I wanted to do this one kind of as an anniversary or wedding. And so I want the happily ever after. And I am going to pop this up with dimensionals. Now in this particular case, I am not being careful to leave a strip where I have the ribbon, because I want these dimensionals to help hold the ribbon in place. So there are times where I don't straddle the ribbon. This is one of them. So this is just going to set right on top of that. And then these are those little copper flowers from that iconic die set that I cut out. And so I'm going to stick these on this side over here. I love the way that that you guys are all thinking of different ways to even do these cards. That's, I love it when you guys start thinking and creating as you're watching me. Again, that's one of my purposes, is to help jumpstart that creativity. So that's going to lay down like so. And then we're going to come in with this big one. And so I'm going to put some liquid glue here, but then I'm going to put some little strips of dimensionals. And on this big dimensionals, there's these little tiny sections right here between these down here. And these are like my favorite places to go for little tiny, when I'm looking for little tiny dimensionals. Oh shoot, that came off and went on my paper. Because they fit perfect on these little tiny, I have to cut another one because that first one slid off of this onto my paper. So I'm just going to put it on 2 of those little ends. And then before I put my liquid glue, again, I'm going to kind of measure where I'm doing this. So it's this petal right here that needs the liquid glue. I call those my dry runs, where I set things down so I can see where they're going to go. Okay, and then I have this one, and I'm going to do the same thing with this one, where I'm going to just kind of, so I'm going to need 2 dimensionals there and there. So thanks for bearing with me tonight, guys. This has been fun. I was really struggling with what to show you guys because there's just so many, and I know there's so many new things, and I know you guys are probably wanting to see a lot of the new stuff, but I just kind of wanted to help you clear out some of your old stuff before you start bringing in a lot of the new stuff. Okay, so I'm going to put the glue on this one right here. Whoops. That was the dimensional. All right. Okay, so there's our final card with our scraps. Let me bring it up so you can see it. So that's what this final card looks like. So let me bring them all back in so you can see everything that we did tonight. And hopefully, again, I'm hoping that I inspired you with, you know, grabbing your embossing folders, grabbing your scrap paper, and putting together some beautiful cards, you know, and then bringing in some different die cuts. So, you know, this was probably the only one that I actually used everything in the suite because it already had that leopard print. And then I used the tiger out of that paper. But everything else I mix and matched with other die cuts and other embossing folders just to make them stand out and to be pretty. Yeah, the squares are really beautiful. It does take a little bit more work, but yeah, it came out beautiful. I agree, Brenda. But I like them all, you know, and I just think we all need to think about, you know, ways to use our scrap paper. And, you know, maybe you guys should get together with your friends and say, just bring your scrap bins. And maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll pick a Saturday, probably next month, and just invite everybody over to bring their scrap bins, and we'll just make cards using scraps, and see all of the different ideas that everybody can come up with. I think that would be a really fun activity. So that might be something that we, if I can find a weekend that I'm going to be in town, that would be a fun thing to do. So anyway, guys, thanks for dropping in tonight. And sorry it was a little longer than normal. I try to keep it between 30 to 45 minutes, but we were like an hour and 15 minutes. But I hope it was worth your time and your effort to be here tonight. Oh, good, Shanine. I'm glad you're going to try these. Again, make sure you check out my blog. I'll be adding, like, not every, I will add one a day to my blog, which will give you like the card cuts and everything that I used for these cards. So let me put that up real quick. So it's the bottom line where it says blog. It's stampinjuliebrown.blogspot.com. And do me a favor, if you guys do go in there and you get the information, leave me a comment on what you think of my cards. So if you guys do go to my blog and look at my cards, I'd love to hear what you think. So, and again, like all of these ideas that you put in here, like embossing this little gray piece, that's the kind of stuff that I like to hear in the comments. So thank you guys. Have a great rest of your week, and I will be talking to you next Tuesday. Good night, guys.